decided to do it when we got in the editing room and we looked at the episode and discovered that the episode was everything that we had wanted it to be. And we realized that we just had an opportunity here to really excite the audience. We've been off the air for 9 months, and it really feels like we need a big event to sort of kick it off. And Comic-Con's been unbelievable to us. 2 years in a row they have helped launch our show. And so we really felt like we needed to go back to the early fan base, the core fan base, and launch it. It was a huge, huge success.
Do you feel Comic-Con has been critical to the show's overall success from the very beginning?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You could really feel that the buzz that came off of that initial screening was almost immediate, and you were able to sort of track it online. Literally, the number of hits that you got was just extraordinary. I think it's the product of the kind of show that we are, where you have this very big phenomena created around a show and a lot of hype, and I just think that what ends up happening is that anything that is sort of hovering at that height just sort of has to fall. But it was also a product of not really sort of gauging where the audience. I think we misgauged a little of the sense of the pace for the audience. We went back to the original pace of season 1, where we started from a place where we had basically an act 1 where things are set up, and it was building towards a finale. Now that season 2 was only 11 episodes long. It was initially volume 2 was 11 episodes long. We were going to do more episodes, but they were going to be for volume 3, which started mid-season. So we always knew that by 6 episodes in, we were starting to bring that story together. And sure enough, the last 5 episodes were among the best episodes that we've ever done on the show. So we were heading in the same direction that we were in the first season. It's just that the audience didn't have near the patience that they did in the first season when they didn't know what was going on. They got used to the adrenaline of the show. So in season 3, volume 3 that we're doing right now, called Villains, we're hitting the ground with a certain amount of adrenaline that I think the audience wants. Product integration is an extremely sensitive thing for us. We clearly have to make a big, expensive television show, and something has to pay for that show. So we are living in a world where that has to exist. Clearly, what we need is to have a relationship early enough on that allows us to build in a product integration in a really effective way. We did it in I thought, a really clever way in the first season, and in some ways it's held up as a kind of gold standard of how to do a product integration with Nissan in the first season, when we literally had it integrated into the comic book that our character was reading that tells him that he has to go and rent this particular car, and it was this very seamless way of doing it. And so, yeah, you learn various lessons about how to do that sort of thing. Those are not employees of me. That's employees of NBC. In terms of the show itself, we have a core group that handles a lot of our transmedia stuff. There's liaisons between us and this small division. But, as I said, what ends up getting really complicated is that the divisions keep growing bigger within NBC. And so suddenly what used to be a very small mom-and-pop kind of rebel force, a kind of lean and mean operation, suddenly gets much bigger, and logistically you have different people to please and different fiefdoms to sort of navigate. So all that stuff becomes really complicated. It's part and parcel of the byproduct of having a hit show, is when you have a hit show, lots of fingers want to go on it. And that's where it can get dangerous, because you can then have fingers on it that shouldn't be making decisions. And
how do you keep those fingers off?
You just have to be really diligent. You just have to constantly monitor every piece of content that represents our show. Absolutely has to be vetted by the creative force of the show, because if it isn't, if you're allowing some marketing intern or some executive at a network to be putting content out there, you lose that sense of authenticity that you need with an audience. And an audience can smell when a show has lost its sort of that sort of thin thread that connects you to the audience is a thread of authenticity, that they understand that it's coming directly from the show itself. And so that gets very dangerous. Well, now that we showed it at Comic-Con, we showed the first episode at Comic-Con, and that first episode is so action-packed and delivers so many reveals, it's really hard to... But I will say that one of the things that this volume really does is it asks certain questions that were asked in the first, to the extent that you asked a question about the first season versus the second. I think one of the reasons why the first season connected so deeply with people was that it asked some very core primal questions. Who am I? What's happening to me? How am I connected to these other people? Where do these powers come from? Those kind of questions are very primal, archetypal kind of questions. And in season 2, they were, as any serialized show goes, you start to replace those kinds of questions once you've answered them with plot questions that can be really interesting in and of themselves, but they're not nearly as primal. But what we've done in volume 3 is we've now taken all of those questions of who am I? How am I connected? Where do these powers come from? We've taken all those initial questions and we've re-asked them so that they all get reframed in a new way that the audience never expected to happen.